Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to the IAI Submitter Training webinar. We are recording this session so that we can make it available for future reference. So please accept or hit the OK button for us. We will go ahead and get started. I'm going to keep admitting people, uh, but we don't want to wait until everybody shows up. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Krista, if you want to switch to the next screen. I see people are typing in their names and institutions. Thanks for doing that. That way everybody knows who is joining us. We appreciate that. I'm scrolling down through that. Lots of people joining us today. Very, very exciting. I'm Melinda Aleo, the director of the Illinois Articulation Initiative. Krista, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Krista Jackson, the coordinator for IAI. Thanks, everybody, for taking the time to participate today. We hope you get a lot out of it, and we hope you feel comfortable in asking questions, making suggestions, and providing some feedback as well. So we'll get started very shortly. Melinda, do you want me to go ahead, or you want me to give them another couple minutes?
Let me go over the what we're going to do today. Uh, Again, just as Krista said, I do want to thank you for being here today. We're really excited about this session. And this actually came out of the special event that we did in April to celebrate II's 25th anniversary. We had a lot of attendees for our session at the mini conference for the Illinois Transfer Success. And several people asked if we could continue the conversation. So here we are with our first II Submitter webinar. We do anticipate doing at least one more, possibly more or more frequently on a regular basis, depending on feedback from all of you. I do want to let you know that based on the survey that Krista did to try and get input on what kind of information you want to cover today, there were a lot of great things. There's just not enough time to cover everything. So you'll see up at the top, introductions and parking lot. I am going to start what I call a parking lot list of things that, good question, but we're not able to get to today. So, you know, and that leads into the next thing is please use the chat box. I will be monitoring that while Krista is working her magic. So there will be two ways to interact here with us. And if you feel like it's one course situation or a situation very specific to your institution that may not be of interest to most other participants today, let's hold off on that, and we can set up some one-on-one time with you to go through your situation. So we do want to be mindful. There's a lot we're trying to cover. It's not everything that you wanted covered today, but there's just so much information. We'll try and get through as much as we can. So I envision us breaking this down into three parts today, with the first one being II processes. Krista's going to go through where you find call courses, submit courses, pending work, all that good information that's held on our dashboard in the iManage site. There's other places you'll be able to find that too. How to work with faculty and get the information that's required for the panel to review a course, how to share that information with faculty, and then work with them on making revisions as needed. Then we'll move into sharing of best practices. This is where we're going to turn it over to you, and we want all of you to kind of pipe up and say, this is what I found to work really well. We know Western Illinois University is excellent in working with their faculty. So, you know, that's one good example. They've got a checklist that they use. But this is a community. We want to work together and help each other so that we're getting more courses approved. And I also want to plug in here, and Krista will do this as well. We've got the new IAI course submitter listserv. So the conversation, we do not want it to stop today. Even if we're going to do additional sessions, we really want to encourage you to use that listserv. It was created specifically with you folks in mind so that you have an instant resource and you can bounce ideas off of your fellow submitters. And then finally, we'll get into Q&A and clarifications. When I say clarifications, just real quick about ICCB's Form 13s and my credit transfer, because we had multiple people on the survey had some questions about that too. So, and hopefully we'll have just a few minutes of open question and answer time too. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Krista, and we'll get the show going with II processes.
Okay, folks, so we're going to get started and we're going to do some work in the iManage system. I'm going to kind of focus on iManage for this part of the discussion. There are some resources out on the main part of the site which we can talk about as well. But we're going to look for your pending items and tracking courses in iManage right now. So when you're working with the courses that are called submitted courses and pending work, there are two different places you can go to do that work. And the one that I prefer to use is all panel pending action list. And this is the stuff that you have to do yet in order to get the things that you need done by the deadline. So on you won't see anything in this top part, which is courses returned to the institution before web review. Normally, if we do send something back, we let you know and it'll go back to where it's supposed to be. The next part, which is courses called for ongoing review. This section will tell you what courses were called, when they were called, and the semester that they were called for. You can take your action here by doing review or maintain or end the course. Normally, you're probably going to mostly do review. And when you take that action, it will walk you through step by step all the information that's needed. The review process for ongoing review courses are not editable. That's why if you need to make changes, do that piece first and then come back and do it over here. If the two sides don't talk to each other, just send me an email and let me know that we need to make a change after the review process. And the other piece is courses that were submitted but not approved. And you can hit show. It tells you, sorts down to either not enough information returned or conditionally approved. You won't ever see your approved courses here because these are things that need action rather than things that had action. That information lives on our dashboard, and we're going to look at that in a minute. And then you can provide the information, and if for some reason your department doesn't want to move forward, you can accept the decision, and it will either archive or end the course, or sometimes weird things happen where you resubmitted it, and for some reason it's still showing here, so you let the system know you did resubmit it, it's done, over with, and it will come off your list. So this is my favorite because it's a real quick stop. Here's what's happening. I mentioned the dashboard, and I want to show you that because it's kind of a cool dealio. There is information on here about historical stuff, and that's in this blue side. And anything with the blue header means it's historical. You can't take action, but you can view it. The cool thing about that is if you sent in a course and you're waiting for a decision, you can see it under submitted courses pending decision. You can see submitted courses that were reviewed and what happened with them. And then you have all your currently approved courses. So that's your database list that you can export there of all your approved courses in IAI. So it's one place to get that information. You'll find we have that everywhere. On the right-hand side, you've got your section with the black header. And that section is actionable, but I will tell you it's not my favorite place to do it. But if you're in here and you're doing stuff and you want to take the action, you can. You can review or end the course in here, and you can send in your courses that were not approved, provide or accept decision. The one thing about this is you'll notice it doesn't show your decision in that section, and this is a little truncated in the display up in the unsubmitted ongoing review information. So it doesn't provide the level of detail that the other screen does. So that's one of the reasons I'm not a huge fan. You can also, using the dashboard, navigate to previous semesters with the Dropbox. So if you want to do all academic year for 2023, you can do that. If you just want to do the spring of 2023, you can do that. You click process. It tells you what your approval ratio was for the semester. And then it changes your data for what was done, what the decisions were in that semester and that kind of information. So that is a real quick overview of tracking down what has been done and what needs to be done. You can also track my institutional courses over here, track institutional courses. And this goes back all the way to the beginning of our system that we're using. It tells you what the decision was on the course. And theoretically, you should be able to use this to track a course all the way through the process if it wasn't approved the first time. So that's kind of a cool little dealio. You can export it, play with it, and that kind of stuff. However, again, here, not actionable, historical, informational only. But you can view it. And if you wanted to see what the decision was and what you supplied at that time, it's viewable. Any of the courses where it says view, you can get that file, you can save it, download it, or forward it. And give me 1 second. I want to close out some stuff so I don't get confused, because you know I'm easily confused. Okay, so that was some of the stuff I wanted to show you for the first piece. The second piece is, and I'm going to ask that some of our folks that are submitters and actually request their information from faculty, if you have thoughts and suggestions on how you do it, and if you find success with that, please feel free to speak up. Remember to unmute yourself when you want to speak up. So and I'm going to go to the main iTransfer website. When you're working with faculty, we have tried to put out some resources for you all, and these may or may not work for you. But underneath course submitters, we have got some things for submission that may be helpful. So it's submission requirements. And if you're on the course submitter link, it's this one that's now turned colors. It's submission requirements. And in this particular section, it's got a sample syllabus. So when you're working with faculty, if they want to see the level of detail, it's a very generic sample syllabus, but it basically will give you an overview of what to do, why they're looking for that, and that information. In the panel-related documents section, which we're going to look at in a moment, some of the panels have put out sample syllabi and what they're looking for as far as lab information, the level of detail, things that are important to them. So if you find that, please feel free to use it. Please feel free to forward it to your faculty so that they're aware that some of the panels have provided some extra help. Another item that's out here to help you work with your faculty, and I'm going to tell you it's not perfect. It can be a little confusing when you first download it. It takes some time to go over, but it is editable. You can play with it and make it your own. And it's an email to communicate information to your faculty in the form of a checklist so that they know their submission should have these items. In it, you can, if you choose to, link to the actual description for the particular course that's going out. And I know this stuff takes some time. So that's where, when you're doing your stuff, it's kind of good to keep a list of how you did things, how your submissions turned out, and if what you did worked or didn't work. Sometimes faculty can have their own opinions, and conveying what's really needed is a little bit of a challenge. So if you have some solutions and you want to put it in to the chat, feel free. If you want to voice what those are here in just a minute, please feel free to do that, because I'm sure it will help folks to know that. Finally, we also have a submitter checklist. It's a PDF, and you have this open or in a book or beside you when you're doing it to ensure that the items that you're receiving from your faculty are the items that you need. And these are generic across all of them. And then it explains what items are needed for lab courses. So it's available for you to use as well. And this is a very wordy thing. If you ever have time and you're interested, it may be helpful to find out what's needed, why it's needed, and it's just a very wordy explanation of what's going on. Couple of things that are in here is you can get your active GECC course descriptions, and if you click description, that is where you get your description link and the description for the course. Some folks like to actually send that description out when they're working with their faculty. So as I said, some of it has to do with what works for you and your faculty, because everybody's got their own personality and their own way of doing things. And sometimes what I might do or what another person might do might not be the best. Melinda, I'm don't mean to put you on the spot, but I know that you do the submissions for ISU. Do you have any thoughts on what works in collecting the information?
Yeah, so Chris was right. Everybody has their own way of doing it. So there's not necessarily one right way or wrong way to do it. But when I'm requesting syllabi, which I actually, now that it's tomorrow's August 1st, I'll be working on that because faculty are returning to campus. I'm going to start working on that tomorrow. So for any of like the called ongoing review courses, what Krista showed you, except I access it, I just go to the actual panels page. And I link to that page because from that one page, they can get the course approval criteria and that descriptor as well as other descriptors or other information. Sometimes if it's like a science lab course, for example, that I know there's a lot more topics, or math actually was a good example where there's descriptors where you have to have 3 of the 5, topics adequately covered. So sometimes I'll put just a link to the description, but sometimes I will actually paste it in depending on how, I don't want to say complicated the descriptor is, but certain things that I know tend to get those courses rejected or institutions having to send additional information. So I definitely recommend at least linking to the panel's descriptor or pasting that in. Again, depending on how you're doing your emails out to your faculty to request them. I do all of mine separately as opposed to trying to get everybody at once. That way I can customize it a little bit more because, like, again, going back to like those science courses, they have to submit a lab manual if it's an in-house custom lab manual, for example, as opposed to using a published manual. So I'm not going to obviously include that kind of information for like a humanities and fine arts course, for example.
I just showed where you go to get the page that Melinda was speaking about. The easiest way, I think, and Melinda may use a different one, is I like find IAI courses, course descriptions, and then it's got all the panels on one page. And you can click that, and the link at the top should be about the same. No matter how you get to this page, it's always the same link. So you can then send that information out. Part of what you can also send is the panel related documents. And I want to show you how to get there the quickest, easiest way. If you're using the course submitter page, panel related documents, every panel has their own little page that they can put their documents out on. And as I said, some of the panels have put out some additional information so you can see that. And I have to do some work on this page that I just noticed. But you can see a sample syllabus from a panel that actually put one out. of what is needed and the level of detail and what they're looking for and what works okay and what works really well. So each panel can decide what's going to work and what they can do to help provide you with the most information in order to get approved the first time it goes in. So that kind of feeds into the next thing that I think kind of is that part is how do you provide a submission / syllabus that will get approved first time, so there isn't the back and forth that sometimes takes place when you and the panel are working together. Sometimes it's unavoidable. Sometimes there's just no way to get it approved the first time. You'll know that sometimes when you're looking at the syllabus and you've been fighting with a particular faculty person who hasn't been able to get you what they needed for whatever reason, life, whatever, and you get it and you're like, it's the deadline today and I don't love this, but I have to send it. And sometimes that's what it takes for faculty to understand the process, that if they give you what you need, you're golden and life goes on and things are good. And then sometimes you'll get something and you're like, you've told them, and you just have to send it for them to get the feedback from the panel.
Or, Krista, or you could get a reputation for, no, I'm not going to submit it and waste the panel's time because I've told you, you specifically have to have these things and you're not putting them in. So you're wasting your time and my time and their time by not giving us everything that we need right off the bat. So it depends on how you want to play it, kind of gets to your role at the institution. Some people don't mind being as me and my former colleague used to call each other good cop, bad cop. So you all know what your own position is there. But it kind of gets into, in the chat, we're talking about the sample syllabus and how close it has to be to that. That sample syllabus literally outlines everything that's required. So you can go to your faculty and say, you have to explicitly provide this information. It's just a requirement.
And, I'm going to show you a sample syllabus that's out here. And a lot of the information in here is a good rule of thumb for any submission. It's specific to the physical sciences panel. But one of the things I love about it is it's got green, which makes us everybody happy. And then we've got red for things that are not like perfect and awesome. And they kind of went through their stuff, but it does provide really good examples of the level of detail that if you provide that level of detail, and maybe it's not particularly comfortable and no one wants to be told, hey, can you do some more for me? If you do that though, and you send it in, pretty much any panel is going to be happy with that level of detail, and you will get your course approved the first time and you're not going back and forth. So I know we all have so much extra time on our hands, but if you get the opportunity to kind of go look through some of these things, some of the panels have put out some really nice information that you might be able to generalize and use as an example for just what should be there. Okay, so I wanted to show you the panel related documents. And does anybody else have anything they want to volunteer out loud on working with faculty? I know that some of the institutions, the submitter has taken it upon themselves to create internal checklist for collecting information from their instructors. It's specific to their stuff, how their stuff is laid out. And they send that along and say, hey, you need to make sure before I get this back, this checklist, you can check every box in this checklist. I'm not sure if they say, don't send it back to me if it doesn't have this, because, it depends on what they're comfortable with. But you might find that is helpful. I know with institutions that have done some extra work like that, which it is a lot to ask, but if you've taken the time, you've done something like that, they do have really good approval ratios. We do have those available on the backside. So if you ever want to know what yours is and can't find it on the dashboard, or you're not a submitter yourself and you don't seem to have access to the dashboard, feel free to reach out to me and I can get you that information. But I do hope that is somewhat helpful. And I see in chat, you guys are talking a lot. But if anybody has anything they want to volunteer aloud, feel free. I'll pause here for a second.
This is Catherine from Blackhawk. I was starting to type, but what I will offer faculty examples of syllabi, especially outlines that have been recently approved by a panel, the panel that they would be sending their course to. And I look for examples that are approved strongly, if not unanimous, just, really high, nothing that's kind of questionable. And always say, of course, these are examples. But if you are looking for an answer to, well, what kind of level of detail are you talking about? It's helpful to have something to look at together and discuss. And then I may even be able to send a sample syllabus from one of our faculty members that has been recently approved by a panel. May not even be the same panel, but it's just a really good example of a syllabus. And I think that has helped quite a bit, most especially with new faculty who are going through the process the first time.
Something that feeds into that, and I'm glad you mentioned it, Catherine, everybody who is a submitter has access to what I'm about to show you. You can go look at submissions that have been sent into a panel, and I'm going to walk you step by step by where to find it. So you have to go into your course review. Once you're there, it's panel by panel. You would do this link here for whatever panel you are looking for, and it's view courses submitted to this panel. When you go in off season, just like it is right now, everything is a 0, but you do your drop box and you can do past courses and future courses. Future courses will show those courses that are loaded. Oh, I forgot to do process. Sorry. Always remember when you're navigating the changes to hit process, because the system won't move along if you don't do that. And then you're sitting there staring at it going, why? Anywho, future courses, it will show you what was loaded. So if you couldn't find any other way and you wanted to see what was loaded for the next review session and you wanted to look at the file, you could by doing that. The other place you go to is past. So when you click past courses, you have to have a little bit of patience. It's loading in everything that has been reviewed by the panel since we've had this particular system. And the way it sorts is currently it's by IAI code and alphabetical by institution. You can again change that information by institution and IAI code. I'm going to leave it where it is right now. And then what you can do is expand all, give it a second to return that information. And figuring oldest is most at the top and newest is most at the bottom before you change out to the next one for your identifier, which you can find right here. You find one that has mostly approved courses, approval votes. That's probably a pretty good example of a syllabus. You check your date on it. And so these are 2016, so they're not perfect. So you can keep arrowing through until you find one that is, say, for instance, a 2023 or a 2024. So that's what I'm looking for here. And I'm trying to find, here's a 2021. That'll work for me. So 12 people said it's awesome. 2 said conditionally approved. And you can do details vote. You can see that it was accepted. And you can come in here and right here where it says view, that is where your file is. You open the file and then up in the top corners, depending on your browser, you can print it. You can save it to your system and then share it with your faculty if you wanted to. And if it was approved that way, you can be pretty sure if it's recent and there hasn't been a ton of changes to the panel's criteria document or anything like that, it's probably okay to emulate that and use it as an example when you're speaking with your faculty. Does anybody want me to show that again? Okay. Okay. The next piece that we were going to talk about is how to share decision information with faculty when courses do not get approved. So this is a joyous time in a submitter's life when the course is not approved and you've got to provide feedback to your faculty. I can say probably the easiest thing to do to start with is you will get that email. If for some reason you don't get the email, you can always come into your track the institutional courses or the dashboard or your all panel pending action list. And if you pull that open, you'll get to see what the decision was, and you can copy and paste that information into your email. So if for some reason you don't get it, but you need to share the information because you know it wasn't approved, you can come here and copy and paste and send it to your faculty. When you do that, a couple of things to help them answer those panel's questions. It may be a good time to include the panel criteria document and the course description, depending on what the decision was. So if it's not enough information, that's a little bit more gentler way to say, hey, this didn't quite get us there. Rejected means they're going to have to do some significant work. Rejected or returned, it's the same thing, just kinder, gentler. It's not approved. It can't be approved without some significant work. So let's talk about what we can do. So if you send that decision and they're not happy with what that decision is saying, and we do the best we can, we do take some time with those when we're doing them. But if you do that and it's not going to fly, feel free to reach out to me. One of the things that we can do is I become the human filter, go in, grab the panel discussion page. We take out things that are not particularly helpful. We correct word spelling things, and we remove members who said actually what, but you get to see what they said. So that's another way to help them make that revision. I think it's kind of like a Band-Aid, and if it's bad news, you just got to share it. You just got to say, look, this didn't go. They weren't happy with it. And we've got to do something to make it go, or you've got to decide, and the department and all the folks have to decide we're not pursuing IAI at this time. Melinda, you've had to do this, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot again. What do you think?
It's not a fun conversation. Sometimes it's that the faculty just haven't given you a detailed enough syllabus despite you working with them. And they're kind of, digging their feet in the sand. And other times it's frustrating for a faculty member that has worked exceptionally hard to try and provide all the information that we need. And I get it. I totally understand it. So that's where I try and work with them. But in a situation like that, we have done several times for many different schools where we will set up, a Zoom meeting between the panel co-chairs, or, at least one of them, hopefully both of them, and then the faculty member and possibly a department chair or somebody, so that they can talk through it. And let me tell you, the co-chairs are all wonderful. They want to help institutions get these courses approved. And will say, this was really unclear, or how are you measuring these student outcomes? Because that's a bit of a concern. I'm just throwing some random examples out there. We've also unfortunately had a situation where a course is a great course and panel members will even say, that's a really cool course. I would like to take that course. It just doesn't meet, align with the panel's descriptor. So we kind of get in this, what's that phrase? Round hole, square peg situation where you're trying to make something work and it just doesn't work. So that's where I like to remind institutions that II is just one way to articulate courses. Yes, it's a primary way and it's the best way in my opinion, but I'm biased because that's going to give you statewide transferability. But you can do those direct articulation agreements between institutions and still offer that course. I know the community colleges, their hands are tied a little bit more because students tend to be trained to look for and only take courses that are II approved. But that doesn't mean that if they take a course that isn't II approved, that they're not going to get transfer credit. So, and a lot of the public universities are great about, because I sign off on the Form 13s for ISU. And I see all kinds of courses come through that, there's not a descriptor for it in II. So there's other ways of making this work so that students can get transfer credit.
Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in on how they deal with that? I think those are all really good suggestions. If for some reason we can't do a Zoom, we can also do an email exchange where your faculty, you, and the co-chairs are pulled into a little bit of a discussion to do an exchange where there's a back and forth for getting those questions answered. So that's another option that we have if a Zoom is just not feasible. So we do have those options, but does anybody want to weigh in?
And it's okay if nothing's coming to mind right now. Again, I'm going to keep plugging the new submitter listserv because that's a resource for you where if you're running into a problem, that you can reach out to your fellow submitters and say, how are you doing this, at your institution? I've got this problem. I've tried, and I'm not making any progress.
Okay, so the next part is participation from you guys. If you have things that are best practices, like those checklists, like anything you might do that you have found has been a real success and helped you keep folks from your institution getting frustrated, getting those courses approved.
I'd be happy to share my checklist if I'm able to share my screen.
Oh, hang on. I can actually let me do this. Make co-host. Yes. All right. Theoretically, you should be able to, I'm going to stop my share. You should be able to share your screen now, theoretically.
Okay. Get the right one up here.
And when I was talking about people being awesome, I actually was referring to one of the people, which is Linda is amazing.
Okay, so this is the checklist that I created, and I really just stole this straight from the panel. I've got one for each panel, but this one is for the calculus sequence. And that really doesn't, the fact that it's a calculus sequence is not reflected in the panel specific checklist. This is just all the generic stuff. And everybody likes that endorphin rush from crossing something off the list or from checking something done. So that's what I do for the panels. And then something else that I'm really glad I added to this is down here at the bottom, the common reason courses are not approved by the panel. That's always been very, very helpful. And then for the same courses, I did a course specific checklist.
Hmm.
And here for us, it's Math 133, 134, 231 sequence, talking about what the prerequisites are. And then here's the list of everything that I stole off the requirements for the calculus sequence. Like I said, I really just stole shamelessly from what's posted on IAI, but for some reason I get better results when I send the checklists to the faculty members and the chairs than I do when I just send them to the online information.
So basically, you just took the panel's descriptor and plugged that into like a checklist format, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so every semester I do have to go through and make sure that none of the panels have changed the requirements. But once I've got it done, it's really just a tweak every semester.
Another thing, when you popped up your checklist, I wanted to, because right at the top you had instructor syllabus versus, I think at your institution, you call it a master syllabus.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify because it seems like we were doing really well there for a while, but now this definitely the last season, possibly the last 2 seasons, we've been seeing more master syllabi being submitted instead of a representative instructor syllabus. Couple notes about the syllabi that you're submitting. We used to require both, but we moved away from that many years ago because a lot of universities, for example, don't even have master syllabi, so you can't request something that an institution doesn't have. But so we moved to just wanting a representative instructor syllabus because that really gives us the level of detail that we're looking for compared to a master syllabus is usually typically is more bare bones, like a shell, so that the instructor can actually plug in all of their information. So that's why we're wanting the representative instructor syllabus. If for some reason you want to submit both, I strongly caution that you first make sure that they're aligned with one another, because that's another issue we get where an institution may think they're being really helpful by providing extra, information, but then it raises questions about, okay, well, on the master, it says these are the course learning outcomes, but that's not reflected in the instructor syllabus. Or why are they covering this here in the master, but not over here in this instructor syllabus? So you want to make sure that they're aligned. If there's some piece of information that you think that's on the master that's not in the instructor syllabus, but you think, yeah, they need it, or that would really help them understand why or how we're doing something, you could even just copy and paste that into the instructor syllabus if you needed to, or as an addendum, like a simple Word document that you add in there as an explanation. And I've done that a few times where I'm drawing a blank now, but it was a clear, oh, I know. It was a really condensed summer course. And we don't, as a rule, we try not to let the panel members get fixated on, is it an 8-week course or a 5-week course or a 16-week course? We're just looking at, course content. Are they covering all the information adequately? And this summer course was so condensed that I thought the alarm bells were going off in my head. And I thought, I'm going to be proactive here and I'm going to ask them to, even though this is the syllabus that we're submitting, provide a rationale of how they're getting through all this information. The student has to do this much work outside of class before they come to class. We broke it all out so that the panel had that information right up front, as opposed to sending it back for something I anticipated was going to be an issue. And I simply did that as a separate Word document and put it in kind of like as an addendum. Hopefully that's helpful to you.
Okay, Ellen, what you got?
One of the things that I do, I read all the syllabi word for word just to make sure that there's nothing in there. There's times that there's kind of ambiguous words. I have a particular instructor who uses a lot of possibles or maybes or something. I will edit those out because I think the panel doesn't want those. So that's just one of the things that I do that seems to help.
Yeah, the words like that, you're absolutely right, Ellen. They, kind of raise the hairs on the back of someone's neck of, especially if it's, possible assignments. If it's a course that requires a certain amount of writing, they're going to be like, well, are they going to meet the requirement or not? If a student can choose to do this or do that. So
Right.
sometimes you just have to be a little proactive with it.
I have gotten pushier. So actually, at the beginning of the season, I warned them that, okay, I'm going to get cranky. It's nothing against you, but I'm going to get cranky and demanding. So
Linda, I think, was next with her hand.
Something else that I do is I ask for the syllabi to be to me 2 weeks before the IAI deadline, because that gives me time to go through them and say, hey, I think we might need a little more information here, or, your percentages add up to 117%, and the panel's not going to like that.
Yeah.
So that way it's not a mad rush at the end to get everything submitted on time.
So Linda, funny story is when I first came to ISU and started doing that, handling the core syllabi for II submissions, I started off with a 2-week deadline, and then because my emails were ignored or overlooked or whatever, because they, to be fair on their part, they're busy trying to get a semester started or what have you. I actually started pushing it back to 30 days ahead, so that if they forgot, couple weeks can go by and I still have time to work with them and go, no, you've got to revise this real quick, or this is great, but you also need to give me this.
I've considered that, but I figured that would work better in the spring than in the fall.
True. Yeah. So yeah, you do it. Definitely give yourself some time. And I just put in my email when I send out the syllabi request. I say, this way I have enough time to look through it and work with you if I need additional information before the deadline. I cannot submit after the deadline. I think Catherine, you might have been next.
Sure, thanks. I was just going to add to the comments about reviewing what comes from faculty is I ask that they send me their materials in Word format, which most of the time they can do that. And that just makes it a lot easier for me to go in and edit things that are simple. They've forgotten the name of our college, for example. It's easier for me to put that on there. And or I might just move something into a different section or highlight it so that the panel can see it easily. Those things are done so much more efficiently like that than a lot of back and forth emails. And frankly, faculty don't want to be bothered by what they see are little, editorial things, even though they're on the checklist. That's just one way I can help streamline the whole interaction with faculty. And I'll use that method for things that are more substantial. But it's good to talk with faculty about why you're doing that, because for many, it's a little alarming that, somebody that's not even a faculty person will go in and start editing their classroom syllabus, and they don't want to cooperate, or they're just alarmed by it. So just explaining why you're going to do it, what your limits are. And then I always tell them, I will show you everything and I say proposing to change, right? Proposing, recommending, not dictating. And I will send that back to them for their approval. So they, keeping them in the driver's seat is both good because it is their responsibility, but it also, gives them the control that they like to have, particularly over their classroom syllabus. So that has worked well. And then in the end, they can go into their next class with that syllabus or not. They can revert back to what they've always used, without our college name on it and some typo in there. That's up to them. This is strictly for the IAI submission. So giving them some of those parameters and giving myself the ability to go in and just make the changes that need to be made has been very helpful.
Great. Okay. Does anybody else have anything they want to add? And if not, I want to go ahead and let y'all know, and you probably received the email, that we started up the new IAI course submitter listserv. I sent out a test message to all of you, so hopefully you received that. If you did not receive the test message, it could be I haven't gotten some of the contact information that you all sent updated just yet. There are a few of them that I haven't gotten to. So if you want to be on the listserv, please feel free, email me at kjackson@iTransfer.org. I'm giving you that one rather than the iTransfer because that mailbox is where a whole lot of stuff goes, and this is kind of important, so I want to make sure I see it. So kjackson@iTransfer.org, let me know you need to be added to the listserv, and I will be happy to do that. And I can dig through the website and share how you do that yourself, but it's probably just easier for everyone if you go ahead and send me a note if you didn't receive it. But things like this, questions that you might have, if you want to pick the group's brain on how people are doing things, you know, if you want to share a file, you can do that. I've set it up. It's got to be a PDF or a Word document. You can do that too. So I just want to let y'all know that it's available. Please use it because we are hoping it helps you all collaborate a little bit better than you have been able to this point. Okay. I'm going to go to the next screen because I'm not sure if.
Krista, actually, if you want to go to the very last one. So before I close it out, we had on the Qualtrics survey that Krista did just to give us an idea of what kind of information you'd like for us to cover this session. And hopefully we hit most of the high points from your responses. If we didn't though, we're actually going to send out a post-webinar survey to you to try and get a little bit of feedback. So you can put some notes in there and say, boy, I really wanted to hear about this or that, and you didn't get there. So we will have that. But in the feedback that we received before the webinar, there were several questions about Form 13s and also the My Credits Transfer, Transferology, you know, list of participating schools. So I just want to clarify, those are, although we cross over a little bit with II, they are completely separate from II, specifically the Form 13s. That is the ICCB, Illinois Community College Board's process for articulating courses, and you do have to go through that to get new courses approved. So that is something you would need to work with them on if you had, you know, needed clarification or were seeking some changes. They have made some staffing changes. Right now, our panel manager position is vacant there. Melvin Harrison used to be the academic affairs director, and he's left and gone to a different or to an institution within the state. So that position is open, and I have not heard how quickly they plan on filling that. So I'm just going to put Marcus Brown out there. He is the one, for those of you that attend the transfer coordinators meeting, he gets up and makes those updates on a regular basis. I suggest that you reach out to him for now if you have questions or suggestions about the Form 13s. And then, and we can send this information out to you as well. And then the last thing would be with the transferology, My Credits Transfer. I think there were a couple questions about how do I get my school in there on the list or participating or articulated courses showing. You would need to work with Dina or Gina. And again, so Krista, make a note that when we send out our post webinar note, let's put in some contact information in their form. Dina Lawrence is the director for that, but I've been including Gina a lot because Dina's had some issues, so she's had to step away from work occasionally, and Gina just picks that ball up. It's kind of Dina and Gina are like me and Krista. You know, they are a team to be reckoned with. So they would be the ones to reach out about participating in my credits transfer. So. Getting back to II, there's 3 ways you can contact us. I know Krista said the iTransfer is not preferable, but it is an option. It may just take longer for us to get to that email. You can always reach out via email or phone and contact Krista or I at any time. We always have our little, note about if it's in panel season, please be patient with us because we are out doing meetings more than we're in, taking care of, just the day-to-day business. But regardless, your questions, your needs are very, very important to us, and we are here to serve and help you the best that we can. So never hesitate to reach out. And again, I would encourage you, let's really start to build this community of submitters so that you feel like you're not doing this difficult but hugely important task that you're trying to tackle that all on your own, because there's many, many other schools and many other people that are going through the same thing as you, and they might have some good information to share and guidance. So we really appreciate all that you do. We can't do this. We say we can't do it without faculty. Well, guess what? We can't do it without you submitters either. This truly is works both ways partnership. We appreciate what you do. And I know that in many cases, this is not the only hat that you're wearing at your institution. So we appreciate it. And if your institution folks don't appreciate it, they just don't realize what all you have to do to make this happen. And let us know if there's something we can do to help on that end too. So thank you all so much for being here. We had, at the height of it, 49 people. And that is amazing for a first time doing something like this. We hope you found this very helpful, and look forward to getting your survey responses to help us shape and do more of these in the future. So with that, thank you very much and have a good afternoon.
Melinda,
Yes.
do you have a quick question about the archived courses that were recently archived or are in the process of being archived?
Can we take a question? Is that what you're asking?
For IAI, yes.
Sure.
I just wonder if there's a way to get a list of those beyond what Northern is. We're updating our whole system and wanted to not enter things that have been archived if they're not in there already. So,
Krista, isn't that kind of getting to the report that we were just talking about?
okay, sorry, did I miss it? Like,
No,
No.
we didn't talk about this with you guys.
Okay.
So let me switch over real quick. I gotta minimize what I'm on.
Kelly, we had a programming meeting. So Krista and I and our programmer, Richard, this morning,
Okay,
we literally were talking about a report that might be similar to what you're asking for.
Okay. Since today is the 31st, it has the data out here of courses that were ended for July, and there's a number. Actually, it doesn't have the July one out. Let me look at something real quick. I saw something weird. So the June one says it's July. So it's got the data for June and July.
okay.
Probably refreshed.
I'd rather have a big list anyway.
So you can get that. However, you might want to wait and run it tomorrow.
Okay,
And it's got all the ads, and it should have also any of the ends on it as well.
Okay.
If this
And-
doesn't get it for you, you can also actually, let me do this. Let me see if this works for you as well. Gen Ed and major courses, historical, and it's going to give you the entire database that of ended courses, but then you can sort it down after you export it from Excel.
Okay, so I can find the ended ones
Yep, if
that
you
way,
change
like
the data
recently by
on either
date.
the gen ed or the major or the combo course, which or the combo search, whichever it is. If you do historical, it'll do only the historical courses.
And is there an end date on those or no?
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, sweetie. You're welcome. And I saw your email. I was trying to figure out what the best way to do for that. So I'm glad you
Yep.
asked the question.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
great day.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.